back with another FCX24M Tacoma, and I wasn't sure how to start this video. I've already done the whole Taco Tuesday thing. I've already done the whole Toyota-thon thing. And then Toyota hit me with the perfect intro for this video featuring Cisco. So you know what? I'm just going to play that for you.
Welcome to CK4RC.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chaz. This is CK4RC. That was Cisco. The thon. You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous. I don't know why that needed to happen, but it did need to happen, and Toyota did it. So here we go. Let's get into this. I've got another FCX24M Toyota Tacoma. This time I went with the red, and if you'll remember from a previous video, I had a spare decal sheet of the custom decals, and I have the same decal decal set over on my gray Tacoma, and it looks phenomenal. And I have a second kit, so I was like, what am I going to do with these? A second Tacoma. That's what I'm going to do. So I went with the red because this is the classic Toyota TRD racing, Toyota Racing Development, whatever that stands for. The classic yellow, orange, red stripe livery kind of design in there. So I went with the red one because I thought that the yellow, orange, red might look kind of weird on the blue version. So I went with the red. And then, of course, because I went with the red, I got some nice black and red Batrazzi 0.9 wheels. These are actually the same wheels that come on the Fair RC Black Mamba mod. So definitely really nice here. I've got two of these with brass inserts, and then I've got two of them with aluminum inserts for the front and the rear to help me with my weight bias. And then I've got some good old black and red Injora 39mm oil shocks. Gonna slap those on there. And then, I got a brass servo mount and a brass servo horn, but then I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade the servo anyway. So I went with the 3-flow 9 Cascade, and so then obviously I had to get the servo horn for the Cascade, which is just aluminum. It's not brass, which a little bit of a bummer, but whatever. And then I did get the 3-flow 9 brass servo mount as well, because I need everything to be compatible. So got all that stuff, and then I've got brass wheel hexes in here just to help, again, with a little more low down weight. And then just this morning, actually, Batrazzi came out and announced that they just released brass high suspension lower, or brass high clearance lower suspension links. And so I've got an order, I've got a set on order. Actually, I have two sets on order, one for this and one for my gray one. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I also have just a couple little minor things that I want to do to dress this thing up beyond just the stickers. My buddy, Michael, over at RC Crawling, he gave me the idea to take this wire metal tray off the rack and use a silver Sharpie to color that and give it a little bit of color. It really makes it pop and just gives it like a raw metal look that really looks nice. So I'm going to do that. And then also I'm going to do something with like the winch slot right here, and then the tow hooks that dangle down, give them a little bit of color as well. And just try to do a couple things to just kind of set it apart a little bit more from the crowd. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. And then while I was at it, I'm going to do a couple more things with my gray one as well. I'm actually going to do the same roof rack or bed rack Sharpie mod customization, whatever you want to call it, coloring. I'm going to do the same thing to my gray one because it really does look really good. I'm going to do the same thing with the winch hooks on the gray one. And then I also got 39mm Injora oil shocks for that one that are black and gray to match that one. And because I burned up the servo in that one, I got a second 3-flow 9 Cascade and brass servo mount and Cascade servo horn. Oh wait, here's the, I already got it over here. So there's the gray shocks, the black and gray shocks that's going to go on the black Tacoma. And then, oh, here's the other brass. All I have to do is just look around a little bit. There's the other brass that's going to go on the red one. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of driving in this one because I've already tested the gray one. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I will dress it up and I will throw it up on the 4-corner scale. I did that with the gray one as well. These are not going to be identical. They will be a slightly different. So we'll just throw it up and just see what the difference is. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'll go ahead and do kind of the boring mechanical mods, and then I'll come back and show you just how easy it is to do some of the coloring and things like that. So we'll do that, and then before you know it, we'll have a finished truck. So that's what we'll do. Here we go. So we'll go ahead and get into some of the detailing, and you can already see that I've started to do some already. So if you don't have new wheels and tires to replace the stock ones, you can make the stock wheels, the plain black plastic wheels, look way better with a silver Sharpie, and you can make them just look more like factory wheels for the one-to-ones, and just take the silver Sharpie along the raised edges. Just take your time, be real smooth with it, and then you mount the tire back on there. It's just a friction mount. They're not bead locks. So real easy, simple process. And then, I mean, just look how much better that looks compared to just the plain stock black. You know, it just sets it apart and gives it a little bit different and, in my opinion, better look. So I've already done 3 of them. So I'll just do the last one real quick. And like I said, you just take your time and just color along the raised edge there. Go with a nice light touch. That way you don't end up bleeding over into the parts of the wheel that you don't want colored. But even if you do kind of mess up, I've got a little speck right there of silver where I don't want it. I can come back with a black Sharpie and just cover that part up. So even if I mess up, not a big deal, because it's fixable. So I'm just going to get in there. I'm going to make sure I get a nice layer of silver. That way it doesn't just kind of scratch right off the first time I drive the truck. Also, I'm not going to be using these wheels for either one of my trucks anyway, my gray one or my red one. But I wanted to experiment and see how much better it would look. And then also show you all how much better it looks in case you don't have other wheel options lined up. Really simple, cheap mod that will take about, I'm getting real sloppy right there, take about 5 minutes total to do all 4 wheels. Work out just fine. So while that dries, you can see I already have one of these bed rack trays already taken off. I took the one off my gray one. It's just 4 little screws, 1 in each corner. I've already taken 3 of them out of here. So just unscrew those 4 tiny little screws. I definitely recommend some kind of magnetic parts tray. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did with the wheels. I'm going to take my silver marker and I'm just going to color all of that, and it'll end up giving me a gray look. And after it's done and I set it over here, let it kind of air dry a little bit, then I'll put it back on here and you'll be able to see how much better it looks. And then the last thing I plan on doing here is I'm going to use my silver Sharpie right here for the winch mount plate, whatever you want to call that. And I'll probably do something with these tow hooks as well, whether I go silver or I use a red paint marker. Just something to kind of make those stand out a little bit more as well. And that is going to be just some really simple customization tips that I can give you. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and then I'll come back and we'll see how things are looking and go from there. I've got the truck all dressed up, so let's go ahead and get it up here on the 4-corner scales and see what the split is for the weight bias. So we'll go ahead and get that tossed up here and see what we're looking at here. Nice. We're looking at a 55-45 front to rear weight bias with a 51 to 49 side to side. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. So I will take that. That's that's pretty solid. As I was working on these rigs, I came to the realization that I don't think I actually burned up the servo on the gray Tacoma. What I did find was that there was some binding and some really strong, heavy friction. So let me give you the finger, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the brass steering link right here on the steering knuckles, it did not fit. The fitment was not good at all. So it was causing extra binding and friction. So I took it off and I went back to the stock steering link. I'm just playing with my finger at this point. I went back to the stock steering link with the brass drag bar. So that way I can still have a little bit of brass, a little bit of weight, but I can actually turn, because that is a really good thing to do. So just a nice little upgrade on there. And since I did that, I went ahead and threw it on the 4-corner scale. So I'll throw those stats over here in this region. They still looked good. We're still talking about a 55-45 split with the front to rear ratio. And we got a clean 50-50 split side to side. So no complaints there. This thing still looks great. I did add my good old Batrazzi sticker up here on the windshield, because the fitment on the steering link, that's the only issue I've ever had with any Batrazzi part. And honestly, I just didn't even think that that would be the problem, because I've never run into that with Batrazzi products before. So anyway, I'm definitely still going to rep Batrazzi. They still make really good quality stuff. So I had to slap that on there. And then just as a little bit of an ode to my buddy Van that slapped these graphics together for me, I had to go ahead and throw on the Micro Crawler Club decal on the tailgate back there. You know what I mean? So just showing some love and appreciation to Van and the Micro Crawler Club. Now let's get some beauty shots of this thing, and then even more so, we'll get some beauty shots of the red one. I think I like the red one better. And then we're going to take them outside, get a little bit of run footage, and then we will come back to the bench and wrap up. getting them outside and letting them roll around a little bit in the mud. Nothing has changed as far as my opinion goes. These trucks are so good, and man, they look so good. So if you've made it this far in the video, drop a comment down below for me, just custom TRD. That's it for Toyota Racing Development. That's their TRD, their off-road program, their racing program. Custom TRD. That's what we're going to go with. Let me know what you think. How'd they turn out? Like I said, the red one, golly, that looks so much better. I liked the gray one. The red one looks so good. Maybe it's just because that's the newer one, but I don't think that's all it is. That red, gosh, it just looks awesome. So there we go. These are my Tacomas. Let me know what you've done with yours. Do you have any of these? What mods have you done? What customizations have you done? Let me know. Drop those down in the comments as well. Hit the quadfecta for me before you go. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Keep doing RC stuff, and I'll see you next time. Big time thank you to my members and channel partners, and if you would like to join the ranks, click on that join button for exclusive content, never before seen videos, early access to videos, and other exclusive content, pictures, polls, and having an active voice in what comes next on the channel. So appreciate the support. Click on that join button, and thank you so much to the channel members.